run. Speaking of gambling, although it might be illegal to bet on the presidential election at a sports book, they don't offer those types of things. You can do it online. You can get away with that. So who's favored? Who's going to win? What are the odds? What better person to talk about that than Maxim Lott from electionbetting.com? Going to break all that stuff down for us. Maxim, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Maxim?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Sure, appreciate it. Okay, so before we get to the actual odds, is that accurate what I just said? I know that in the state of Nevada, you can't legally bet on the election. By the way, I think that will change down the road. But right now in the United States of America, unless you're betting with friends and it's for fun, you can't legally place a bet like at a sports book right on the elections.
Yeah, so the situation is there's one website called predictit.com, and they've been given a waiver by a regulatory agency to allow people to bet up to $850 per race.
Wow.
So that is effectively legal, and lots of Americans go there nationwide and trade. So that's kind of the one option people have.
And you're saying race as in like every state?
It's every kind of betting contract they list there. So it's will Trump win? Will he win Iowa? Will Amy Coney Barrett get confirmed? Everything. So 850 is the limit.
Gotcha.
But there's still millions of dollars traded there. And that's one of the sites that we track on electionbettingodds.com for our average.
Gotcha.
And is that like a Bitcoin site, or can you use just a standard credit card like you can everything else?
That's just standard credit cards. So
okay.
Very simple. There are also Bitcoin sites that people use. So if someone wants to bet more than the 850, they're going to have to go to a kind of Bitcoin site like Augur, which is kind of questionable legality, I guess, but people are doing it.
So, Maxim, let's start where these odds started with you and if they fluctuated or changed, and where are the odds right now for Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Share that with us.
Yeah, so electionbettingodds.com, we kind of average predict it and many other sites. So there's been more than $300 million traded on the presidential election between those sites. And right now, Trump is at 35%, which it's actually really interesting. The statistical modelers like Nate Silver, all these people who have great reputations and track records, they say Trump has almost no chance. The Economist gives him 4% chance. Nate Silver gives him 12% chance. But the bettors have it much higher. They say Trump has 35% chance, a third chance of winning. And I think the bettors, the statistical modelers are kind of limited by the polls and that stuff. But the bettors say anything could happen this year. It's a crazy year, lots of mail-in ballots that could get thrown out, all sorts of things that could be different from a normal year and throw off the models.
Well, yeah,
so it's pretty interesting, actually.
Guys like Nate Silver, I mean, they have numbers like Biden's going to win 360 electoral votes and Trump's going to win 178 or something along those lines. I mean, he has Biden winning Texas and Florida and Ohio and Georgia, and we know that those aren't going to take place. But you look at the polls like Trafalgar. You look at there's a Twitter account, States Poll. There's a couple of different polls out there. Do you follow those as well and pay attention to the other side of the polls?
I've seen those polls too, and I don't know enough to say who's right. Is it these kind of legacy polls like CBS News and whatnot, which say Biden's up 12, or is it Trafalgar, which has Trump leading in most battleground states? The bettors seem to give some weight to these newer polls that give Trump a chance. So, and Trump, 35% is pretty high. It's a lot higher than they had him in 2016 when obviously he won.
So if I have $100, what is my return right now at this moment if I wanted to bet on either Joe Biden or Donald Trump for $100?
Let's see. That's a good question. So I believe if you bet $100 on Trump, you would get $200 back if he wins.
So 2 to 1. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
That's a pretty good payout. So
that's a ridiculously high payout.
Well, that's about where Donald Trump was right before the election of 2016. He was about 2 to 1, but he was 4 to 1 about 3 or 4 months before the election, and it went down to 2-1. So do you think that
he was as high as, I think, 35-1 a couple of days before the election?
No, he wasn't.
He
I
was
don't know.
really high.
Where are you getting?
Our site had him at 4-1.
Yeah, he was never 35-1 a couple days before the election.
I saw him pretty high on like sportsbook.com,
okay.
a couple of different sites.
Maybe 4-1 a few days before. He was absolutely 100%.
Maybe it was a couple of weeks before
not
the election.
35-1. That would make Hillary Clinton.
What was the highest you had Trump?
The highest, that was like 3-1. So the bettors were not that great in 2016, but that was still higher than all the modelers. You had a Huffington Post give him like 8%. The Princeton Election Consortium gave him 0.1%. So a lot of these modelers just don't know what they're doing, and the bettors are much smarter because you guys, and we're putting our own money down. So.
Prominent pollster Frank Luntz, he made a statement 2 days ago. He said, if we get it wrong again, talking about himself and Nate Silver and the different pollsters, if we get it wrong again, then our profession is basically disgraced moving forward. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there would have to be a huge reckoning because so many of these polls, which is what the modelers are relying on, show Biden with huge leads, like 8%. And so if Trump just wins, they're going to have to really reconsider how they're doing things. And maybe look at the betting a little more. By the way, the betting all talks beyond the presidential race, too, although that's the biggest thing. It looks at the Senate, and there's a huge variability in the Senate. It could be any outcome from Republicans holding it to Democrats getting 57 seats. There are just so many toss-ups there. So that's kind of interesting. And if Democrats do sweep, it looks likely they'll end the filibuster and just pass the whole raft of policy proposals. So we're looking at potentially big changes in the country there.
Maxim, can you give me a couple dead heats? Give me a couple bets that you can make. It's basically a coin flip one way or the other. What can you tell us about that?
In the Senate, North Carolina is a dead heat, basically 50-50. And, there the Democrat was leading the whole time, and then he had these sex scandals come out.
Oh, boy.
So that's thinking in there.
Cal Cunningham.
You got Michigan. Okay, Michigan's not a dead heat, but it's kind of close. So right now, Pennsylvania is a close state for Trump. That's probably the linchpin state, the most likely state to decide the election. That's almost 50-50 right now. Biden has a slight lead. Florida's near 50-50 too. So there are a lot of dead heats if people want to bet on those.
That's interesting.
And Florida's interesting because they've had massive mail-in turnout, but the Republicans the last couple of weeks, so I think they're up 614,000 in mail-in turnout. The Democrats are, but Republicans are up now 360,000 in actual day of voting. And they won. They were down 88,000 on the day of the election in 2016. They won by 115,000, but Republicans have added 250,000 more registered voters since 2016 than the Democrats have. So I think Florida is leaning red, and it's not getting the respect that it needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, you guys are out in Nevada. What do you think of the odds there? Right now, they're 3-1 in favor of Biden.
So my opinion on that is I think 3-1 might be a little bit high. I'd probably put it at about maybe anywhere between 2 to 2.5 to 1. There's no question the history of this state that Biden, in my personal opinion, is going to win the state. But I think 3-1 might be a little bit too high. But I think it's pretty close. I think that's pretty close to where it should be.
I would put it about Biden 150. I think people are underestimating how much people hate the governor of Nevada here after what's happened with the Las Vegas economy because of the shutdown. I mean, especially with what just came out last night. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Sheldon Adelson is trying to sell the Sands. He's trying to move his entire Venetian and Palazzo out of Las Vegas. He's trying to sell his ownership in Las Vegas. So that's a big deal. And a lot of people are. We have the highest unemployment here in the country. And I think the handicappers, so to speak, for those odds aren't factoring that stuff in, and they probably should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Maxim, before we let you go, can you tell me a little bit about your website, Election Betting?
Yeah. So it's electionbettingodds.com. And basically, we average 4 of these sites, including Predicted, where Americans bet, and also sites where people in England bet, and one crypto site called FTX. And Again, more than $300 million has been bet there, and they have a good track record. We've followed these races since 2016, tracked a couple hundred different bet things, and when people say when bettors say it's between 30 and 40%, those races actually kind of win between 30 and 40% of the time. So it's pretty reliable, better than listening to kind of random people on TV or most of these models, honestly.
Yeah, I think what you guys do are very interesting. By the way, I just want to be clear. I know that you said there's one website that's allowing bets up to $850. I believe in the next 4 or 5 years, I believe sports books will allow to take these types of bets. I really do. I really think that it's going to be
great.
It's going to be legalized eventually. There's no question about that. By the way, I have a question for you. I know you work with John Stossel. He's been on this show before. Funny question. Have you ever open slapped him like that WWF wrestler did back in the day?
Fortunately, we've avoided any altercations like that.
By the way, for the record, I think Stossel's great. I've been watching him for years. He came on our show a few months ago. He's a great guy. I just remember, he's known for doing a lot of great things. I just remember that open slap he took with that WWF wrestler, and it was that was quite shocking. Yes.
And we have a video out today on YouTube, John Stossel's YouTube channel, all about election betting.
Oh, cool.
It's the most reliable.
You guys are great. I will definitely read that. You guys do a fantastic job. Maxim, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and explaining all this election betting stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Maxim.
There you go. That's Maxim Lott from electionbetting.com. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, if you want to bet on Donald Trump, you'll get 2-to-1 odds.